If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything that you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on any listening platform like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many, many more. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome to the Wartime Leadership Podcast, where we explore what spiritual resiliency looks like from different perspectives. We often focus on the physical, emotional, and social areas of resiliency, but often neglect the spiritual pillar. Now, this looks different for everyone. We will be exploring what spiritual resiliency looks like in the lives of our guests, who are people from all different walks of life. Today's episode is sponsored by Success Draft, where we help you transform your dreams into drafted plans. Head over to successdraft.com to get started on your future today. Now, today's episode, this guest, we have gone back and forth, trying to narrow down a perfect day, and it wasn't happening. We were having this struggle going back and forth, and then finally here we are today, sitting down. This episode's guest is Brandi Benson. Brandi, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here to tell my story and to finally talk to you. It has been a while. It's been a little struggle at first.
It was, but you know what? They always say it's worth the wait. So I am looking forward to sharing this, because I've actually been able to look into your story just a little bit. And in talking to different people like Trip Bodenheimer and these other people that we both know, they have said nothing but solid things about you and your story. So why don't you just give us a little bit of a background story on you and what brought you up to the point that you are now?
Yeah. My name is Brandi Benson. I am a veteran. I'm a CEO. I'm a speaker for a company called TLC Lions. I'm an entrepreneur. Like I said, I have a company called Resume Advantage, where we do employment services, a cancer advocate. I mean, I could definitely go on, but my story starts in California. So I was born and raised in California, lived there for a very long time, about 16 years. And then we ended up moving from California to the beautiful tropical islands of Hawaii. And of course, at first, glance, you can say, oh my God, like, you're so lucky moving to Hawaii. Like, that's so great.
So sad.
Go ahead. Yeah,
so
right.
Sad, Hawaii. Oh,
I know. But that's like where the initial start of like what my exposure was to the military and how I kind of understood completely different concept of it. So got to Hawaii. I was there for we were there for about a year and a half. And while we were there, my biological father ends up passing away mysteriously. Nobody knows what happened, kind of literally dies at 36, and nobody knows what happened to him. So my mother, of course, she's grieving him, because his mother of a child, all of that. My stepfather, I guess, feels some kind of way about it. And so that kind of starts the whole divorce process of ending their marriage and all that being on the rocks. So that happened. So we end up getting left in Hawaii. My stepdad decides to leave, and we get not stranded, but pretty much stranded. So we based our life off of a 2-family income, my mom and my stepdad's, but now he's out the picture. So now we are literally poor. We have no money to buy food. The dogs are starving, lights are getting cut off. Bills are going to collection. So life got really hard. So during this time, I had lots of friends who were in the military. And they were younger, high school kids. And I remember talking to my friend Christina at the time and just telling her about what was going on and how we didn't have food and life was getting really hard. So she ends up telling her dad, and her dad was somebody, he was a Marine, he did something, I can't remember, but she ended up telling him, and they end up coming to my house like a couple weeks later with hundreds of boxes of MREs.
Oh,
And
wow.
at that moment, I was like, there is amazing companies and organizations like the military. Like, that is what I'm going to do when I'm finally graduate from high school. Like, I'm going to give back to the military. So that was like my kind of like my first introduction to the military.
Now, there's some people that are listening that are military and they're going, MREs, really?
Yeah, we had no food. Our cupboards were bare.
Mhm.
If we could find a thing of like top ramen, you know, the ramen noodles, if you could find that, that was a great day. But things were just dwindling down. We literally had nothing. So getting boxes of MREs, that saved us. Like, we had something to eat. We were feeding the dogs, but we were so poor that that was like Christmas, Thanksgiving. Like, we were so
Wow.
excited. So yeah, it got really tough. So after they dropped off these MREs and, you know, these Marines came and I was talking to them about the military, they were just like, hey, you know, there's this amazing organization, the military. Like, when you get older, maybe you should join. You guys will never have nowhere to live. You'll always have medical and dental. You'll have, you know, it's like your own little world. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So in 2008, I ended up joining the military, the Army. I was in Illinois at the time. And then that's when kind of everything changes because I end up immediately getting deployed to Iraq and then discovering a really large lump in my leg. And it ended up being really rare and aggressive cancer. And then life just took a total spin. I had no clue what was going on. Like, how did this happen? You know? So
Wow.
it was interesting and hard to say the least. Of course, I was 24. I wasn't very cancer literate. I had no clue how people got cancer. I thought it was people who were, you know, really unhealthy, or they were much older, or, you know, it just didn't make any sense. And let alone having cancer in my leg, I didn't know that was possible either, you know, because you only hear about brain cancer, lung cancer, stomach cancer, throat cancer. So I didn't know that this lump in my leg was something that was potentially going to be killing me.
Now, you weren't at your first base very long at all. Like, it was a very short time period before you got deployed.
Very short. I was at my main duty station for 1 month and 9 days. So I went,
Wow.
I know, isn't that just the craziest thing? Because I was a college kid going to school. And then 1 minute I'm like, I'm just going to jump in. I'm just going to join the military. I'm not going to wait to get my degree. I'm just going to go in. So basic training, AIT, as soon as I get to my main duty station is 1 month, 9 days. And I just remember being there thinking, wow, you know, like, this is what I signed up for. I did not think it was going to be so soon that I get deployed. Like, I just learned how to shoot an M16, how to throw a grenade, like all this stuff. Like, now I have to like really, really be with killers. I was like, this is crazy, you know? And I kept thinking, I definitely made the wrong decision. But in hindsight, if in fact that I was going to be getting cancer, this like random leg cancer, I would not have had any of the medical insurance, the coverage, any of that. So, you know.
Now, at this time, are you taking care of your mom? Are you taking care of the bills for her?
So we actually end up moving to Illinois. Moving to Illinois, and my sister is there as well. So my sister just had a baby. She ends up joining the military before I did the Army. She's the reason why I actually ended up going sooner. So we were all collectively like helping out with the bills. So my mom was putting in, my sister was putting in, and I was helping as well.
Okay. And so now you've deployed, you're there. How long were you there before the growth started?
I was there for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I wasn't there very long at all. So I got there in September, and then I started noticing like these weird symptoms of just being like so tired, and I was so exhausted. No matter how much rest I got, I just could not get energy. So I thought maybe it's because I'm in the middle of war, I'm away from my family, all this stuff is happening. maybe that's why I'm so exhausted, but that was one of the symptoms is, being exhausted. And then in January, I was stretching and I saw this massive lump in my leg, and you could only see it if I was like doing this certain stretch. So had I not been stretching or not like listening to my body and trying to figure out, what was going on with it, I would have never known. It was like buried deep inside of my adductor muscle in my inner thigh leg. Yeah, I would have never seen it. So it just came out of nowhere.
Wow. And so you're in country for 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
You start to see this, it's developing, and just so people understand that, listen, I'm not doing things in the normal order that I would. Usually we would start off with these 5 questions to kind of get warmed up, but here we are, we're getting into this, and you've already got me hooked on this, like 4 months in country, and you make this discovery. So what kind of happens? What are these steps that the military starts to take for you?
Yeah. So as soon as I show a couple of friends, my NCO, I show the medic, all that, the doctors and stuff, everybody thinks that something's wrong. And I don't think anything's wrong. I just know that I'm really tired. And if everybody thinks that something's wrong with my leg, maybe they'll give me quarters so I can go to sleep a little longer, right? Because I'm just thinking if I can get more rest, then that's probably what's wrong with me. So that was my whole motivation. Showing the doctors, they're going to say, hey, something's wrong. Why don't you just get some rest? Rest it off is what I'm thinking. But that's not what happens. They tell me that I'm on the next flight out on the helicopter. Again, bring all my equipment. I'm getting a CT scan. So I get over there, get the CT scan. And then the doctor comes over and he's like very nonchalant about stuff. He's like, hey, we know blood is flowing in and out of it. Seems cool. If you want to go back to 5 Echo, you can. However, we think that you should go to Germany, but it's like, it's totally your choice. And so I'm thinking, okay, the further I get away from, 5 Echo, the more rest and, sleep I'll get. So I'm like, I'm choosing Germany. Plus, I'm out of country. I'll be able to get a beer. I won't be in with all the war. I'll get some candy, like I can fill out. So I have like all these other issues or reasons on why I wanted to leave. So I go there, get that done. They tell me I have to do an MRI. I do the MRI, and then they come back and they tell me that it's a tumor in my leg. And I had never heard of a tumor. I barely knew anybody that had cancer. I didn't understand the whole concepts of any of this stuff. So I was, just wondering, like, what's a tumor? Like, what happens? What do they look like? And so I just look online and, it's like benign, not cancer, malignant, cancer. So I'm just slowly realizing that this might be more serious than I thought. And then I start seeing friends from my FOB that were also in Germany. And I was like, oh, so they say that when you get to Germany over there during that time, it's like a 90% chance, like you're not going back to theater. So I was like, oh, okay, like what's wrong with you? And, what's going on with you? But they all had different issues. But then we end up separating. A couple weeks later, I get to Walter Reed Medical Center. It was located in DC at the time. And then I realized that all of my quote unquote friends, they're on the ward with me. So there's like 5 of us. Wow. And there was one NCO that was my sister's NCO because she ended up being deployed as well. But they all end up being on the same ward, on this, on the same cancer ward, and they were all sick with cancer. I was the only one that lived. Everybody else died.
Oh my goodness!
Single person. I watched all of my friends pass away. It was horrible, 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 horrible.
So did they ever link it back to something?
They are slowly. So there's this company called Hunter 7 Foundation. You might know who they are. Okay. So they are making connections with burn pits and the poor quality of air and exposures, all the bad stuff and toxins that are out there. So they're making links now. I mean, that's 13 years later, or it's probably already been out there, but they're the ones that are kind of like uncovering things and saying there's a connection with those who have been deployed in Iraq or in the Middle East and they're coming back sick. They think it's from being deployed out there and being exposed to all those terrible things. And I think that's what it is too, but I'm not a doctor.
Well, I pray that they make that link for, I mean, at least some form of closure. But you're sitting here in a ward in Walter Reed in DC.
Mhm.
Are you alone at this point with or family coming at all?
Yeah. Yep. So during the time that when I was in Germany, I was in constant communication with my mother. And we have an extremely close relationship. She had me at 16 years old. So we kind of like grew up together. We're best friends, still besties. It's great. So I remember talking to her on the phone and, just explaining to her about what was going on and what was happening and all of that. And she was just really concerned that I wasn't concerned about what was happening with me, right? Because I was naive. I didn't know what was going on. I was kind of like invincible, all that stuff. So she's the one who kind of was like telling me, like, you need to be asking the correct questions. Like, are you asking the correct questions? Here's a list of questions I need you to ask so you can let me know what's going on. Cause like you're acting like you don't care and something's wrong with you. So I have these questions, I'm asking questions. So when I finally get the answer of it's cancer and it's a tumor stuff, of course I talked to my mom on the phone. And I remember we were in these like little cubicles. And there was like a guy who's super far away on the other end. And we're still friends till this day. Super crazy. And he had like the best message during that time, but I didn't get it. We'll get to that. Anyway, so he's far away on another side of the cubicle. And it's just me and him like on opposite ends. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to my mom. And I just got the news that it's cancer. And I remember being on the phone with her. And she's like, she can't wait to, to hear what's going on. And she's like, what is it? So I explained to her it's Ewing sarcoma. They misdiagnosed me. They say it's a nerve sheath tumor. And I tell her, that's what it is. And I remember her just screaming on the phone. And she's so upset. And she's like, listen, Brandi, I don't care what happens. I'm leaving everything here in Texas and I'm going to come be with you. And that's what she did. She left her job. She left the car. She left her house. She left her bills. She left everything, moved from Texas to Washington, D.C. to come take care of me inside the hospital.
Yeah, that's a love of a mother, right?
Right? Isn't it just crazy? She thinks that, like I explained to people that part of the story. I think it's the most touching thing you could do for somebody. It's like be there for them. You might not be able to take their pain away or take that disease, but at least you're there for them. She left everything. She left her entire life to come be with me, to take care of me. So she came, she took care of me. And I remember being inside the room and I was bawling my eyes out because, there's not too much good stuff about cancer on TV, at least not then. And I have this like rare cancer and I don't know what's going to happen. I was just crying like crazy. And the guy came over. No, I was getting ready to walk away. And he like pops his head over the little cubicle. And he's like, hey, like, I know I heard you talking and, do you believe in God? And I was like, yeah, I believe in God. And he's like, listen, God wouldn't put you through this if he didn't think you'd make it. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, I don't want to hear any of your little biblical stuff. Like, get out of here, like I'm dying. Like, that's not going to help me. But years later, we ended up being really great friends. And, I'm still here. So it was beautiful.
I think you are wrong about one thing, Brandi. I don't think that your mom gave up her life, gave up everything to be there. I think you are everything. And so therefore she was running to it, right?
Oh, that's so great.
You got to look at it differently, girl. It's perspective.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
I think she was running towards everything that she had at that moment. So there's a difference between running away and running to. And I'm pretty sure she was running with you a good portion of that time. So
she was my everything. She so everyone thought I was going to die. When I get to Walter Reed and I'm going through all my treatments and the doctors are there, I have doctors and like teams of doctors and I don't know, people who are going to school and they're studying medicine and stuff. I'm like the science project. No one has ever seen Ewing sarcoma cancer before. No one knows of it. They only know because, all the medical doctors, the documentation inside the books. So everyone is giving me a year to live. They say, if I live past a year, I will not live past 5 years. They're having me update my will. I have this Hispanic guy who comes in. I think he was Catholic. and he'd come in with this massive crucifix and he'd like lay it on me and be all dramatic and praying over me. Like, it was insane. But having my mom there, it was just, things were just so much easier to bear, just even though the world didn't believe that I was going to make it and they didn't believe that I had a chance to survive. Like, she was there constantly telling me that, don't give up on yourself. And it doesn't matter what the doctors say. And that's not the point, but like, you have to believe in yourself. Yes, they may not believe in you, but let's not listen to that. So she was a huge pillar for me being here. And I honestly believe that if I didn't have her support and her there, because all those other people passed away, the only thing that was different was that they didn't have somebody there. Like, we all had different types of cancers, other things going on, but nobody had the support system like I had. And I think that's why I'm here today. She
was a huge advocate for you.
Yeah, she did. She spoke on my behalf. I was so weak at one point because I did about 101 rounds of chemotherapy in 10 months. So honestly, it's like unheard of. At one point, I was so weak that I couldn't even hold a pen and sign my name out on anything. So she had to write for me. She had to talk for me. Sometimes I couldn't talk. Like, it was hard, but she was there, and I'm alive. I'm alive now. It's like, you did it, Mom. You did it.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you've had some pretty good leaders in your life, even from a very young age. Yeah. So how would you describe your leadership style going from young in life to being in the military to what you're doing now?
Yeah. So I've had so many different types of management just like on me, micromanagers, people who like let you be who you need to be. So as I've grown up, and what has worked for me and what I feel like works for other people is like a participatory, that's what it's called. So people who are able to participate. So with my businesses, if I don't make like a final decision, I make it collectively. Like, what do you think about this? How are your thought process with this? What if we implement this? What are your ideas? So I like to get a collective of whatever it is, and then kind of go from there and see what we as a team want to pursue forward. I feel like there's nothing worse than working for a company that like you just, you have no say. So whatever you're saying or how you feel or questions concerned, like they're not heard in a nurturing environment. Like, I don't like any of that stuff. So I always want people to feel like they're valued in whatever their concerns are. It's, it's valid. Your information is just as important as mine.
If they're seeing it, there's probably something there.
Mm-hmm.
You got to poke your head up and see. So General Gronsky was the exact same way. Episode 5, he said that even though I'm speaking out loud, I'm not making a decision. I want to hear. And whenever I say I want to hear you, it's not like, okay, we're sitting in a room and I just want to hear you say what I'm doing is the right thing. I want to legitimately hear, because if you see it, then it's in my blind spot, and I need to know about it.
Right, exactly. And some people are just so scared to talk and speak up. It's like, no, you need to say something, maybe something will get fixed, or maybe you can enhance something. Maybe, like you said, there's a blind spot somewhere that could alleviate some sort of like pain somewhere. So.
Wow. Well, okay. So let's flip gears a little bit here. Obviously, this podcast is about resiliency, but more specifically about spiritual resiliency. How do you, Brandi, define spiritual resiliency?
God, this is such a hard question.
Well, you knew it was coming.
I know, right?
Let's be honest.
Spiritual resiliency. For me, I think it's knowing that every circumstance, situation, event, not making any permanent decisions off of things that are temporary. So like some people just get so caught up in a moment and they're so angry at whatever's happening with them emotionally, spiritually, right? They're just so caught up in a moment. And then they do irrational things and decisions and moves that have a very potentially could be, permanent and detrimental to the future. So for me, it's just knowing that the bad is not always going to be there forever. It's just working through the storm. To me, that's what spiritual resiliency is, working through those hard times and then taking that information that you learned and making them apply to something in the future, potentially like a blueprint, right? I always talk about your backpack of resiliency. So you go through a hard time, like, all that, those issues with my stepdad and whatever happened, like those lessons, I'm able to reapply them, learn, and then help somebody else that might be going through a similar situation and give them some sort of suggestions. But definitely just being able to weather the storm and not making any irrational decisions off of things that are not going to last forever.
Okay, so we'll use your term here, how do you pack the backpack of resiliency in yourself? How do you do that?
How do I do that? I definitely do a lot of like mental therapy for myself. Like when I sit down and like meditate, like I don't like kumbaya, but I'm like listening like to myself and just like, okay, what happened here? How could I have made this better? What did I learn from this situation? And then how can I take those little gems and make them work in the future? Like, and I'm always constantly thinking about how I can improve or make something better. Or if there's a goal that I have, and I feel like somebody might have a similar story to mine, I'll go and I'll see what they're doing and how's it working and how can I implement those strategies into my life and then bring out different tactics that kind of mimic that, but in my own way. So I've done that my entire life and it's worked, but I don't know. I feel like that's how I pack my bag. It's definitely just pinpointing areas where I feel like I can do better or that I'm doing good in, I sometimes, and then I feel like it's also really important to celebrate even the small wins, even the smallest little tiny things that you've done that are, really well. And because it all counts and just being grateful. It's really important.
Oh, absolutely. Gratefulness is one of the things that kind of gets left behind, I think, in a lot of ways. Because once we get over something, it's like, yep.
Yeah, no, you have to be grateful. Sometimes I find myself like being so, I don't want to say pessimistic or hard on myself, but just being so like, sometimes, your dog's barking. It's like, geez, this dog is so annoying. Or, they want to go outside because they want to go play, or they're just like a lot. But it's like, they love you so much. Like, be grateful for that. So I have to turn it around sometimes. I'm like, you got to do better, girl. So, but, I'm only human, so not perfect.
Yeah, you can't be hard on yourself all the time. You have to have a little bit of grace for yourself even.
Yeah, yeah, and it's important. And I always tell people because I get a lot of individuals that will, come to me for like advice from stuff or different things, just going through trauma. And they'll be like, okay, well, what would you do in this situation? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not in that situation, so I can't give you any kind of advice for that because I hate when people do that to me. But I just feel like you have to give yourself grace, give yourself time. Like if you've gone through something like a divorce, like you're not going to be better in 5 months. It's going to take some time, Give yourself some grace. Be nice to yourself.
Well, I think everyone, we talked about this a little bit beforehand and with the intro, everyone tries to make spiritual resiliency very cookie cutter, and it is far from that. I think that in the, coming from the military perspective, we tell everyone to be physically resilient, you go for a run or you work out, or for social, you hang out with people. But when it comes to spiritual resiliency, we go, you got to be spiritually resilient. And okay. We leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah. But
And
what
we try to make it
look like? It can look like so many to different people. It could be self-care. It could be, and then self-care is like a lot of stuff, right? It could be painting or drawing or getting a massage or drinking lots of good water. I don't know. It could be anything, but I think it is really important to give back to yourself because we expend so much energy just in general. So, yes.
So it sounds like your mom expounded a lot of resiliency, a lot of her buildup that she had on you. She spent a lot of that time and a lot of that. So how do you build resiliency in your family, in your mom, your sister, and such?
Yeah, I tell people, even just people in general, right? I mean, it's just that the bad is not always gonna last forever. Like right now, it seems like it's so hard. Like I have a friend who's going through a really hard time right now. It's just seems like it's always happening. But I'm like, you have to focus on what it is that you want to experience. And then, like you were saying, it's all about perspective, right? So some people are just so upset that this relationship ended, but it's like, was it good for you? Probably not, right? Maybe it wasn't good. Maybe it was. I don't know. We'll take it. We'll say it's not. Maybe it wasn't the best for you. So what did you learn from that situation? How can you make it work better for you in the future? And so I just try to tell people to like dissect it a little bit, make it more logic than emotional, and then apply whatever those lessons were to the future. So if you're always picking these bad guys and they're bad boys and they're going to, these issues and these problems that are happening, it's not them, it's you. You're the one who's picking the bad people. What are you attracted to that is bringing that? So fix that. Whatever that issue is with you and what you're trying to bring back into your life, and you need to mitigate that. You have to fix that. So I just really try to let them know that the hard times are definitely not going to be lasting forever, but just find the lessons that you can apply to in your life. And if I feel like people who don't do that, those are the ones who are constantly running to the exact same issues. Yeah. It's like you didn't learn your lesson. You didn't learn it. Now you're making a life choice. And it's like you shouldn't have to keep doing that.
Or things start to go good again. So you think, well, now I can go back to what I used to do. And then it's like, no.
Yeah. You have to change. Life is ever evolving. Yep.
Absolutely. So, hey, tell us more about that guy that kind of poked his head over the barrier to start to talk to you.
Yeah.
You said that you all still are friends to this day.
Yeah. He is amazing. And he kind of has a super sad story. It just happened last year, but I'll share. So his name is Robinson. I don't believe he's in the military anymore. I definitely believe that he got out. So yeah, we ended up being really good friends. We ended up, I think we connected on Facebook years ago, and we just kind of kept in touch and here and there, and I'd see him. But most recently, his son, his name is David. His son was in Buckeye, Arizona, and he was like a genealogist or something, and he went missing, and nobody can find him. And he's been gone they haven't found him for like over a year. And he's left, everything. He spent all his money, and he has this huge GoFundMe account things, and people are helping, and they're just doing like ground searches and doing everything by foot. Cause supposedly the police station like closed the case, and now they're reopening it because it's gaining so much awareness about it. So his son is missing, and it's just super, super sad. And he's such an amazing guy. And I just feel so bad, that these terrible things happen to people, but it's really hard. But yeah, he's awesome. He's a really great guy. And, I hope everything ends well.
Yeah. But it's just in that moment you needed him, right, to do that, even though it wasn't necessarily the words that you wanted to hear at that moment.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Not what I hear. Yeah, not what I wanted to hear in the moment. But sometimes you hear what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. So
yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing now? So you were in the military for how, like, did you end up medically retiring?
Yes, I had to get out. So I had a huge surgery. They removed my entire adductor muscle out of my left leg. So that's the muscle that like allows you to bring your leg in and out. So that muscle is gone. And of course, with the military, you need both your legs, right? You need to run, you need agility, you need all these good things. And I don't have that anymore because that portion of my leg is missing. So right when I left from the hospital. I went to I think it was called the Warrior Transition Unit. I was there for like a year. And then it gave me the option of either getting out or staying in. I was like, I want to stay in. This is what I want to do. So they said, where do you want to go? I said, take me to Fort Stewart. Why did I say that? I don't know. I don't know.
What were you thinking? Like Fort Stewart?
I know. I just thought it'd be so cool to live in Georgia. And so they sent me to Fort Stewart. They gave me my wish. Went to Fort Stewart, and as soon as I got there, I got reattached to another unit that was going to be deploying. And I was like, no way. There is no way that I could do this again. So I was like, okay, let me see if I can, if I could just stick it out a little bit. So I remember doing like a PT test or something, and whoever my NCO was, she was like horrible. I had, a profile and stuff, and she still wanted me to do all these things that I wasn't able to do. And so I was like, they don't care about my health. They don't care if I get deployed again and get sick. Like, I'm not doing it again. So I dropped my packet, got out in 2013. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was so scared. I was nervous. It was like I built up my entire life thinking that I was going to be, retiring in the military. And now it's not happening. So being sent out to the quote unquote real world, the civilian world, I was just so depressed and I was scared. I had so much anxiety. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make it out here. I don't know how this is going to work. I really don't. But it ended up working, and I was in for about 5 years, and it was a good experience, to say the least. I learned a lot, but the whole transition of getting out of the military, I feel like the ball was kind of dropped on that portion for sure.
Well, wow. So you go through all of this, you give it everything you have, and then you choose, Fort Stewart, Georgia, of all places. And that's where you end up transitioning out. Where did you go from there?
Yeah. So I got out 2013. I lived in Hinesville, Georgia, and I went to Savannah and I had no clue what I was going to do. So I just started applying to as many colleges as I could. Like, I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. I'm going somewhere. Someone's going to pick me up. So I ended up getting picked up at this school called Savannah College of Art and Design. I had no clue. It was like a really good school. I had no clue. It was like, I didn't know anything.
It's like the number one art school in America.
Yeah. I had no idea. None. I was just like, I'm going somewhere. And so they said yes. And I was like, cool. And then I started telling people where I'm going to be going. They're like, Brandi, that's a really big deal. I'm like, is it? I have no clue. I don't know. Who knows? But I ended up getting into this writing program. So the whole reason why I joined the writing program. So back up a little bit. So in 2009, I was sick with cancer, right? Everyone thinks I'm going to pass away and die. And I end up creating a journal. And the journal was like little letters to my nephew about what was going on, what was happening. And I was really upset that I was going to be dying and we're not going to have a relationship. He's only 2. He's not going to remember me. It's all messed up. So I decided to create a journal. And this journal was just about our interactions and what was happening. And then somewhere we'll say like 3 to 6 months after writing the journal, going through the treatment and figuring out, okay, I got a hold of this cancer stuff. I made a promise to myself that I would turn this journal into a book someday, right? And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what's going to happen. So that's why I was looking for a writing program or an artsy school or some sort of school that would allow me to change my journal into an actual, some sort of manuscript that I could publish. And that's why I picked SCAD. I didn't know what it was. I just knew it had a writing program. So that's why I picked SCAD. So I picked SCAD, do all that great stuff. And I use my journal as my thesis. And they love it. They think it's amazing. They think it's great. I had people crying. They're like, Brandi, this is so great. I was like, this is wonderful. And they're like, Brandi, you have to publish this. But before you publish it, you need to finish the book. And I was like, oh no, this thing is done. I've been working on it, since 2013 and 2015, this thing is finished. So I ended up publishing it and created the book and stuff. But that's why I got out and went to that school, or went to a art school, because I felt like I had to live up to my obligations that I had given myself.
Now, is that The Enemy Inside Me? Is that what the book ended up being? The Enemy Inside of Me, a young soldier's unexpected battle with cancer.
That is correct.
I did not even realize that was written as if it was being written to your nephew in letters.
Yeah. So I had to, of course, change it around, So it originally started out as a journal for him and about what was happening. But as time went on, I kind of had to change it because they wanted, or the things we were writing about were more essay formatted, not journals. So I had to kind of change the structure and the format, but it all started out as a journal to him. And then it kind of grew its life of its own. And every assignment that I had was like geared towards the book and what I wanted to say. And it came out really pretty good. Came out pretty good.
Yeah, I would say so. And to just say an unexpected battle, I mean, you're in a battle, didn't realize that you were battling something else inside of you, and just I cannot imagine myself. I've been deployed several times. I've been in theater. I've experienced that with a strong support system, but then to go through something like that on top of it is just,
yeah. I always say I went to war, right, to fight for my country, to leave war early to fight an enemy inside of my body. Like, what? That was so the statistics and the rates of this type of cancer, super high for like returning. People don't ever live past 5 years. Literally, they do not. There's not a lot of us out there. There's about 3,000 people worldwide that make it past 5 years. I'm one of those 3,000. How? Don't know, but I made it. I made it.
hey, that's a statistic that you can be proud of.
Yeah, for sure.
I
For
mean,
sure. Yeah, I
one
know,
of
but
3,000. That's a pretty good.
it's so good, but it's so sad because I get a
Yeah.
lot of people who come to me that have Ewing sarcoma cancer, and a lot of them don't make it. And it's so sad because their parents will reach out to me and be like, "Oh my God, I've heard about your story. Like, what can we do for my son?" Or it reoccurred. What can you do? And I'll talk to these kids for months. And then, the calls drop off, and then you find out that they passed away. And it's like, damn. So it's a blessing and a curse because it's great that I made it, but everybody else that I know that has it, it's like they didn't make it. And I just don't know how or why. Like I was the one that was able, to make it and to be here.
And that has to wear on you
It's
in a
really
lot of
sad.
different ways.
It is really sad. I used to have survivor guilt like crazy. Not as I don't have it as bad now. I've realized that that's sometimes that's just how life is, and those are those people's journey and what they have to experience. But it does get hard. It's a challenge.
Brandi, though, I think that hope is something that isn't lost on deaf ears. It's not lost on deaf ears. And even if it's a glimmer of hope, you're still providing them with a service of potential.
Yeah. And that's what I always tell them. I said, there are so many miracles, so many of them, so many. And when we are going through treatment or going through a hard time, you're always looking for those miracle stories. You're looking for something. And I always tell them, like, you could be that story. Why can't you be that story? Why can't you be the motivation that people grasp on to be there for one more day? Like, it's possible. Anything's possible. So I always just tell them that there's miracles every single day, and you could be one. You can. You
Wow.
can.
And you are that to a lot of people. So,
I know, man. But then when they pass away, it's like, Jesus, how
mhm.
did this happen? Why did this happen? But yeah.
So in what other ways are you giving back to that community?
So I do lots of, I sit on the board for the Sarcoma Alliance, and we do lots of um, spreading awareness, definitely about sarcoma cancer. We have a grant where we provide, I think it's 2 or 3 people a year. I'll have to double check the numbers. 2 or 3 people a year where we provide them with a grant that allows them to get a second opinion. So this group is also there for people who need, I don't know, you need like peer support, or you need a little motivation, or it's there for people who are wondering about clinical trials because sarcoma is so rare, such an aggressive cancer. A lot of people don't know of the new, resources or technology or all that stuff that's out there. So the Sarcoma Alliance, like Facebook group, is huge for a support system and just a really great platform to talk to people. So I help with that. I share my story all across the world. I actually have a talk with um, uh, Rolls-Royce again. This is going to be my third time talking to them. Crazy, right? Third time
Wow.
talking to them. Yeah. I'll speaking to them on July 20th. Again, I talked to them last year in July and then in December. So I'll be talking to them about my resiliency and my backpack of resiliency and how to acquire this and do all those great things. So lots of speaking engagements. I don't know. I think what I've really been able to do is just be a really great listening ear for people. I can empathize, I can sympathize. I've been through so much in life. My father died when I was really young. Death of a parent. I've watched my friends pass away. I've watched, I can help with that. I've opened up a business. I've written a book. I've done all these really fun, great things. I was, extremely poor for 2.5 years with my mom and my sister. Like, I feel like I can give advice to so many people, and that it comes from a place of experience, so I'm just not saying it and thinking I know. It's like, I know how to get out of those holes. I was there.
So is there a way for people to be able to donate to the
Sarcoma Alliance? Yes.
Okay, well, we want to be sure to get that link so that we can share it in the description below. Sure. So people have a better avenue of going about doing that.
Great.
You have an amazing story. You have an amazing what you've been through, and I know that you probably wouldn't want to live through it again if given a choice.
Yeah, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. I really don't.
But your story is one of hope, and it's good for people to be able to hear.
It is interesting. It is. I was just talking to my husband about this. He's like, Brandi, you have been through so much. I have this like really great news that's happening. I can't say yet because this hasn't been solidified, but I'm talking to somebody. I got invited to this place. And it's a really big deal. I wish you guys could like think of it. So it's like, I don't know how all these opportunities are lining up and how things are working, but it's like, it's all coming to like full circle. Like, I've been through all these things and experienced all this hardship, but now like everything is making so much sense. It's like, I see why I had to go through that, or why I had this terrible relationship, or why this happened. Like, it's just interesting how things slowly start to unfold years later, of course, but in the moment, it's like, this sucks. This is too hard. I don't want to do it anymore.
Well, it's really interesting that you bring up the deal that, you say God will never put you through anything that you can't handle. You look at the stories of like the Jobs of this world that just go through pure hell, losing everything and anything that was precious and dear to them. But yet they still sustained and still went through. And that's the story of you, right? Like there has been a lot that's happened that led up to the resiliency from within. But I think that it's a lot of that centered around your mama.
Yes. She really raised us to be some strong girls. She really did. And she was like the epitome of strength. Like, she went through a lot. They were raped, they were molested, they were, physically abused. She had a terrible childhood, but she knew that she didn't want, us to experience any of that. So she really instilled some really great morals and characteristics, and like, how do you contribute to the world, and what do you want your legacy to be, and how, who are you going to be in this world? How are you going to contribute? Are you just going to live here? You're going to help, how are you going to do these things? So she really she did a good job, even though she had us super young, and she did well. She did a good job. It all worked out somehow, some way. And it's just, it's interesting, but I don't know. I don't want to say I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I'm really happy that the bad stuff is over with now.
Yeah.
That's what I'm happy about.
Well, the book is The Enemy Inside of Me, or excuse me, The Enemy Inside Me, a young soldier's unexpected battle with cancer. How can people pick up the book?
Yes, it's on Amazon. It's also on Barnes and Noble, and anywhere they sell books online, it's there. So just go on Amazon, type in The Enemy Inside Me by Brandi Benson, and just grab your copy. And then please leave a review. Those always are great. I love to hear people's thoughts, even if it's bad. I don't care. I just want to hear like, it doesn't matter to me. I have a TikTok, and sometimes people are talking like crazy to me, but I feel like everybody should have a voice, and I don't care if you're trying to tear me down and be a bully. Like, it's whatever, it's fine. I don't want to have this whole only platform of these amazing, great things. Like some people aren't going to like you, and that's okay. So,
hey, feedback is feedback. That's how we get better.
We're going to say constructive criticism.
That works. We'll go with that. Constructive. Yes. Okay. So what are you reading, or what books do you suggest for people to hear or listen to?
I'm definitely going to say to read my book. That's
absolutely.
What I'm saying. Check it out. It's super detailed. There's so much information packed in this little tiny book. It's like 120 pages. My mom is not a big reader, but she read it in 3 hours. So it's like it's a page turner. You're gonna have a good time. You're gonna learn some lessons. It's lots of humor. It's a little sad stuff, but it's really, 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 really detailed. Very, very detailed. You can see a lot of imagery. So I want to say that book there.
And I definitely will suggest this to you all to pick it up, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we could only get so deep within the 40 or so minutes that we have to talk to one another. But the more you read, the more you understand, the more you will be able to understand what resiliency truly is in somebody's life. But Brandi, what are you doing now? Like what is the company?
My company. Okay. So I have a company called Resume Advantage. We do employment services there. So we do resumes, cover letters, professional bios. Sometimes I dabble in website design and stuff like that, but not too much because that's so time consuming. But no, it's just employment services. So if someone needs a new resume, they need one updated, or they need a tailored resume for a new type of job they want to do. So that's what we specialize in. I have a super great team. They are amazing, great writers. Everyone gets along very well. Everybody knows how to communicate everyone's skills very well. Most of us have been in the military. I think 2 of them have not, but it's a pretty great business. I want to say that I have like a really great success rate of these individuals. So the whole point of a resume is to get the call, right? Because I can't talk on the on the thing for you and sell yourself, but my success rate of getting the call is extremely high. I don't want to say 100%, but we're going to say like 95%. I feel like that's pretty safe. That when you hire our team, we're definitely able to get your foot in the door and for you to present yourself the way you need to.
And that's resume-advantage.com.
That is correct. Yes.
See, I'm pushing it all out there for you, Brandi.
You're doing so well. Thank you.
Hey, do you have anything else that you want to end on with the show?
Let's see. Yeah, I think my little saying is, let's see. So after going through all of that I've experienced, I've become so fearless with stuff, just not worried about how things have to be perfect or the best, or, waiting for that perfect time. So for me, my advice would be, if you have anything that you feel like you have been procrastinating on because you feel like not now or the right time hasn't arrived yet, I would say just do it. Just jump. Just do it. Just dump. When you do it, you have no choice but to swim. And if you fail, you always end up right back where you started. So you really don't fail at all in the first place.
It's so great to hear that, because is it really that, or is it learning? Did you just learn another way not to do it? Just like Thomas Edison, right?
Yes, exactly. And then you can throw that in your backpack of resiliency, Now you have another blueprint, a strategy, like, oh my God, next time I do this, I'm not going to write an email like this. It's going to look like this instead. Oh my goodness, like that conversation went so well. Why did it go so well? Well, use these tools, tactics, resources. So it's all about learning. And then the best perfect plan is when it works, when you've experienced enough failures and it finally comes to fruition. It works.
Absolutely. Hey, today's episode, first off, Brandi, thank you again. Today's episode was just absolutely amazing. Just to be able to hear, to talk to you, to know, hey, Trip Bodenheimer with the Shadows podcast. Let me tell you, he does a great job of connecting people. So I'm gonna have to give a good, huge shout out to him. Today's episode is only possible thanks to my friend and producer G Frazier with 369sounddesign.com. Jeff, you, I know, man, have the hardest job ever, as the last episodes have shown, with as much editing as you have had to do. I am so grateful that you are there to make me sound good. We are blessed by the entire team here at the Wartime Leadership Podcast. See you next time. Be blessed.